Welcome everyone who's joining this press conference today. My name is Ide Dijkstal. I'm a barrister at 33 Bedford Road, Chambers in London. And today, during this press conference, we're going to be hearing about an Article 15 communication to the ICC Office of the Prosecutor, which was submitted by William Shabas concerning the proposed peace plan between Israel and Palestine. Now, this communication was submitted in the context of proceedings before the ICC. As you might be aware, the Office of the Prosecutor has indicated that it will be opening an investigation into crimes that it has found a reasonable basis to believe were committed. However, in indicating that it would be opening an investigation, the prosecutor has asked for an advisory opinion from the pretrial chamber first to decide on the scope of the court's territorial jurisdiction. The pretrial chamber has now heard from over 40 amicus applicants, from a number of victims groups, and also from the prosecution on the question of territorial jurisdiction. The pretrial chamber has also received clarification from the state of Palestine on the effect of the possible annexation of parts of the West Bank into the state of Israel, which we'll be hearing about more during this press conference, and what effect that would have on the court's jurisdiction. And has also received explanations about statements from Palestinian officials on agreements between Israel and the United States. Now, during this press conference, we'll hear first from Professor William Shabas, who is a professor of law at Middlesex University in London. He has submitted this communication to the Office of the Prosecutor and will be outlining the submission and telling us more about what this submission is calling for. We'll also be hearing from Dr. Amar De Bock, who is the Director General of the Independent Commission for Human Rights in Palestine, and also from Dr. Ahmad Al-Khaldi, who is the former Minister of Justice of Palestine, and also a former professor and dean at An-Najah University College of Law. So I will turn it over now to Professor William Shabas to tell us more about this communication.
Thank you very much. I submitted the Article 15 communication to the prosecutor earlier today, a few hours ago. I had prepared this at the request of several prominent Palestinian citizens, including Dina Al-Khaldi, who is going to speak in a few minutes. What the communication does is bring to the attention of the prosecutor the relevance of the so-called peace plan that was proposed by President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu some months ago, and relates it to the current developments and the imminent threat of a declaration of annexation. Okay, so the communication relates to the importance, the significance of the proposed peace plan that was set out by Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump, and its relationship to the threatened measures of annexation that are imminent, that Israel is proposing, I believe, to undertake within the next 24 to 48 hours. So what the communication does is addresses how these elements may be part and should be part of the investigation by the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. What it does is draws attention in large part to two violations of the Rome Statute that would be, that are a consequence of these developments. One of them is the crime of aggression, over which the International Criminal Court can exercise jurisdiction, but not apparently with respect to the relationship between Israel and Palestine. But this crime within the jurisdiction of the court, and it contributes then to a legal analysis respecting the complicity of the participants in the crimes committed, especially in the West Bank, with respect to the settlements and the threatened annexation. And what this means, of course, is that there is a crime within the Rome Statute of directly or indirectly transferring the population of a country into an occupied territory. That's clear, and that norm has been violated constantly by Israel. It's a norm that's set out in the Fourth Geneva Convention, but of course it's also a distinct crime under the Rome Statute. And the prosecutor has already indicated that she is examining this. What is of importance in terms of these recent developments, especially, is the complicity of the American administration in these crimes. So what the communication sets out is that President Trump, Secretary Pompeo, and the special advisor Kushner, these are the three most well-known names, appear to be participants in a form of conspiracy to perpetrate the crime of transferring directly or indirectly the population into an occupied territory, and also, of course, the crime under the Rome Statute of annexing territory as part of the crime of aggression. And at this very critical time in the history of Palestine, with the threat of annexation, it seems to me particularly relevant to highlight the fact that what Israel is proposing to do, with the encouragement and the incitement and the complicity of the American administration, is not only to violate international law, that has been declared by many countries, by senior United Nations officials, including most recently the High Commissioner for Human Rights, but this is also a criminal act under the Rome Statute, and that crimes are being committed, crimes are being threatened, crimes are being organized. The senior officials in Israel are, of course, the primary suspects in these crimes, but the senior members of the US administration, including the president himself, are accomplices. And so we want the prosecutor to take that into consideration as she does her investigation. The other thing we would like her to do is the following. In other situations, the prosecutor has used her role as a kind of a monitor or a watchdog for international crime, the protection of the population, really of the world, from the perpetration of international crimes, to issue warnings. And she has done this. We've enumerated some of the examples in the brief, in the communication, but she has done this in the past, and we think she should do it now. So this is the right time for the prosecutor to set out that the transfer of settlers into a territory is a crime under the Rome Statute, that annexing territory is a crime under the Rome Statute, and to warn those who are considering this crime and who are participating in it, both in the Israeli administration and in the US administration, that they are not only putting themselves outside the law in violation of the law, but they are risking investigation and possible prosecution by the International Criminal Court and by other justice institutions throughout the world, who are enabled to also see that the goals and the objectives of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court are fulfilled. So the International Criminal Court is not the only court capable of prosecuting these crimes. Many others in different countries under principles of universal jurisdiction can also prosecute them. And the message from the prosecutor is really the person par excellence. She's the most eminent authority in international criminal justice. It's an appropriate role for her at this stage to make a declaration warning those who are considering these crimes that they can be held accountable. I think that's all I have to say at this point. I can respond to questions at the appropriate moment.
Okay, thank you very much for that overview of the communication and for setting out everything that it's asking and what is happening now in between Israel and Palestine, the annexation and the continued settlement program. We'll hear next from Dr. Amar De Bock. He, as I said before, is the Director General of the Independent Commission for Human Rights in Palestine, and I'll turn it over to him now to speak more.
Well, it's a great pleasure to be with you today, and I would like to first thank Professor Shabazz for this important and courageous legal step that comes at a critical time for Palestine and for international justice. In the shadow of a world fighting COVID-19, the newly established Israeli coalition government has agreed that after July 1st, tomorrow, it will start or it will take steps to annex parts of the occupied Palestinian West Bank with the backing of the US President, Mr. Trump. This annexation plan includes, according to official statements by Israeli ministers and the Prime Minister, settlement blocks, Jordan Valley and the Northern Dead Sea area, an area that consists around 1/3 of the occupied West Bank. If this objective is achieved, whether partially or completely, gradually or at once, it represents the conclusive end of the two-state solution, barring the possibility of a viable and independent Palestinian state. The reality that it will create on the ground is one that is akin to apartheid and should be treated as such by all. It should be clear that annexation and colonization of the Palestinian territory has been ongoing since the early days of the Israeli occupation of the West Bank and Gaza in 1967. Over the course of this prolonged illegal occupation, Israeli successive governments have systematically imposed legislative, political, constitutional, demographic, and other irreversible measures that amount to de facto annexation. This includes the establishment of settlements and their associated regime of checkpoints, roadblocks, as well as building the separation or annexation wall, and the transfer of Israeli settlers into occupied Palestinian territories, the forcible displacement of Palestinian communities from their land, extension of Israeli laws into the occupied West Bank, the creation of discriminatory legal system, and the exploitation of Palestinian natural resources, among others, all of which violate Palestinian fundamental right to self-determination and international law, international humanitarian law, international human rights law, and international criminal law. This planned step of formal de jure annexation means bringing colonization of the Palestinian territory into a new level, which demands a different course of action and reaction from international community to respect their obligations under international law and hold Israel accountable. It is the duty of international community, its states, people, and civil organizations to confront this, prevent it from happening, and if it does happen, to take punitive and deterrent measures. Reluctance to seriously confront all of this would be a shameful abrogation and would create repercussions in the region as well as the international system. We appeal to the international community to take necessary positions and measures to confront and stop this injustice, to preserve the goal of the establishing peace and a secure and viable future for the people of the region, including the Palestinian and Israeli peoples, each in their independent state. We specifically ask that immediate action be taken to affirm. First, support Palestine or Palestinian efforts in the UN Security Council, General Assembly, and other international organizations against any Israeli move towards annexation. In addition, to condemn and declare this move illegal, null, and void, to call on all states of the world to renounce and refuse recognition and to deem Israel an outlaw state. The need for all states that have relations or cooperation agreements with Israel to take punitive measures in regard to these agreements. Third, support the steps taken by the State of Palestine and other countries, institutions, and individuals, like the initiative of Professor Shabazz, before the International Criminal Court and national courts throughout the world that allow such legal challenges against Israeli officials responsible for war crimes and crimes against humanity, including settlements and annexation. We demand compliance with UN Security Council Resolution 2334. Demand that third-party states distinguish between Israeli territory and the territories occupied since 1967 in all official dealings. We affirm opposition to the so-called Trump vision and reject all positions by right-wing extremists and settlers in Israel and extreme religious rights in America, all of whom aim to achieve greater Israel, deny the national rights, and even the existence of Palestinian people. Finally, we call upon you to support the Palestinian people, Palestinian Liberation Organization, and the Palestinian Authority in their continued struggle to confront annexation in the face of Trump's vision and achieve their national goals, freedom, and independence. I thank you for your interest, and we take this conference as a message of solidarity and support to Palestine at a time where we need this support and we need justice and international law to prevail. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for your comments. I should mention at this point that we will be taking questions once all the speakers have made their comments, and we'll be hearing last from Dr. Ahmad Al-Khaldi. He, as I mentioned before, he's the former Minister of Justice in Palestine. He is going to be speaking in Arabic, and unfortunately there is not an English translation, so we will be hearing his comments now in Arabic. Doctor, go ahead.
تحية لكل العاملين من أجل العدالة والسلام واحترام حقوق البشر والتصدي للمستعمرين الجدد والحفاظ على القانون الدولي باعتباره أهم مكتسبات الحضارة الإنسانية، حيث دفعت البشرية في صراعها الحضاري إلى الارتقاء بالحياة الدولية الأرواح الملايين حتى وصلت إلى التوافق على مبادئ أساسية تحكم الحياة المشتركة على المستوى الدولي لحماية الحقوق الأساسية للإنسان والحياة بكرامة والتحرر من الاستعمار والاستعباد والتخلص من شريعة الغاب. وقد دون المجتمع الدولي تلك المبادئ الأساسية في اتفاقيات دولية وإعلانات حقوق الإنسان وأعراف صارت تشكل قانونا دولي وقانون دولي إنساني تهدف إلى حماية الحريات الأساسية لإقامة العدل والسلام في العالم. من أجل ذلك أكدت قرارات الأمم المتحدة المعبرة عن الضمير القانوني للمجتمع الدولي المساواة بين البشر في الحقوق الأساسية في الحياة الكريمة وحرية تقرير المصير ونبذ الاستعمار واغتصاب حقوق الآخرين بالقوة، كما أقرت شرعية نضال الشعوب في سبيل تقرير المصير والتحرر من الاستعمار والتسلط والاستعباد، وقررت أن إنكار ذلك يعد مخالفا لميثاق الأمم المتحدة، وأكدت أن تطبيق مبدأ تقرير المصير للشعوب ذو أهمية عظمى لتعزيز علاقات الصداقة بينها والمحافظة على السلام في العالم. لكن الأطماع الاستعمارية لدى حكام إسرائيل ومؤيديهم في الإدارة الأمريكية بزعامة ترامب نجدها تعمل اليوم على العودة إلى عهود الاستعمار والاحتلال بالقوة، متجاهلة الحقوق الأساسية للشعب الفلسطيني، الأمر الذي يهدد السلم والأمن الدوليين. لقد أكد القانون الدولي على عدم شرعية الاستيطان على أراضي الآخرين، كما أكدت اتفاقية روما بنظام المحكمة الجنائية الدولية أن الاستيطان في أراضي الغير يعد جريمة حرب. وأن هذه الجرائم خطيرة وتهدد السلم والأمن والرفاه في العالم. إنما يدفع نتنياهو للمضي قدما في جرائمه الموقف الأمريكي الدائم والمؤيد والمشارك للاستيطان في رسم خرائط ضم أراضي المستوطنات في الضفة إلى دولة إسرائيل، وذلك ترجمة لما تتبناه الإدارة الأمريكية فيما يسمى بصفقة القرن. ويضغط نتنياهو لسرعة تنفيذ ضم ما بين 30 إلى 40% من أراضي الضفة إلى إسرائيل، معتبرا ذلك أنه يعد فرصة تاريخية لتحقيق الرؤية الصهيونية في الاستيلاء على كل فلسطين وإجبار الفلسطينيين على التنازل قسرا عن أرضهم وحقوقهم الأساسية في التحرر والعودة وتقرير المصير وفقا لقواعد القانون الدولي وقرارات الشرعية الدولية، وخاصة القرار 194 الذي نص على حق العودة للمهجرين الفلسطينيين إلى ديارهم في سبيل تعديل الأوضاع الناتجة عن تقسيم فلسطين وإعطاء أكثر من نصفها لليهود، الذي من شأنه كما نص القرار أن يساهم في تعديل الأوضاع بحيث تؤدي إلى تحقيق السلام في فلسطين في المستقبل. إن ما يقوم به قادة إسرائيل وبمشاركة من إدارة الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية يعد انتكاسة للقانون الدولي وعودة إلى عهود الاستعمار والاستعباد، وهو عمل غير مشروع ومخالف لقواعد القانون الدولي ومخالفا لالتزاماتهم الدولية، وسيؤدي إلى انفجار الصراع مجددا، الأمر الذي سيكون له أثر خطير على السلم في العالم. كما أنه يهدد منظومة العلاقات الدولية التي تهدف إلى أن يسود القانون الدولي لتحقيق السلم والأمن الدوليين بين شعوب وبلدان العالم بدل الحرب والدمار. لقد بلغت الجرائم التي ترتكبها حكومة إسرائيل وبتأييد من الإدارة الأمريكية درجة خطيرة، حيث تفيد التقارير ومنها تقارير لبيت سيلم الإسرائيلي أن الاحتلال أقام أكثر من 200 مستوطنة، وهناك بدايات لحوالي 250 بؤرة استيطانية تمهيدا لإقامة مستوطنات عليها، وقام بهدم مئات المساكن والمنشآت، وأقام أكثر من 888 حاجز يحول دون وصول الفلسطينيين إلى أراضيهم تمهيدا لمصادرتها وضمها، واقتلع آلاف الأشجار. وقد عبر عن خطورة هذا الضم، أي ضم إسرائيل المستوطنات على الأرض الفلسطينية، مقرر الأمم المتحدة لحقوق الإنسان في فلسطين، حيث صرح بأن الاعتراف بشرعية المستوطنات وفرض السيادة والقانون الإسرائيليين عليها سيلحق ضربة قاسية للنظام الدولي وعواقب وخيمة لحقوق الإنسان، ويشكل نظام فصل عنصري وفرض نظام تمييز في الحقوق السياسية والاجتماعية والاقتصادية، وتمييز منهجي مخالف لمبدأ عدم جواز الاستيلاء على الأرض بالقوة الذي أكد عليه مجلس الأمن الدولي. وأضاف أن هذا الضم يشكل اختبار سياسي للمجتمع الدولي ولن يوقفه مجرد التوبيخ. وبالتالي نحن نبارك الجهود التي تحاول استخدام الوسائل القانونية من أجل ردع القيادة السياسية الإسرائيلية عن القيام بهذه الخطوة التي تدمر حق تقرير المصير وتهدر الحقوق الأساسية للشعب الفلسطيني وتؤذن باندلاع الصراع مجددا في المنطقة، الأمر الذي سيؤثر سلبا على كل العالم. لذلك نبارك جهود كل من يساهم في هذا العمل من أجل أن يسود السلام والأمن العلاقات بين أبناء المجتمعات والشعوب في العالم، وشكرا لكل من يساند هذا الجهد العظيم. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments there. We're going to move now on to the questions section of this press conference. I understand that those who are joining the press conference today will be able to ask questions. So we'll try that out in just a moment. If I could just ask that anyone that is asking a question, if they could please identify yourself and what affiliation you have, and then present your question. I will take the liberty to propose the first question, if I may, to
I didn't hear it.
Abbas. If I could ask more about what the next steps are going to be now that the communication has been submitted to the ICC prosecutor, if you could outline what the next steps and if there's any timelines or time limits on when to expect any announcements from the Office of the Prosecutor, or if there's going to be further submissions as well.
Is now in the court of the prosecutor. So the prosecutor has full discretion under Article 15 of the Rome Statute to receive such communications. And it's on that basis that it's submitted, but there's no legal right of those who make submissions and communications at this point to require the prosecutor to do anything. All that we can do is set out what we think she should do and urge her firmly but politely and respectfully that she should pursue the route that is set out in the communication.
Thank you for that answer. Now I'll open it up, but in the meantime, I'll go ahead and propose another question. Professor Shabas, if you don't mind, back to you again. I wanted to ask a bit more about the question of individual criminal responsibility, particularly for U.S. officials that you say have been suggested for investigation in this communication. As a lot of people who are joining this call might know, the U.S. is not a member of the Rome Statute, and so the court does not have jurisdiction over crimes that happen in the territory of the United States. So if you could just give a bit more information about how the court would have jurisdiction in this case and for the crimes that are being suggested that the prosecution should investigate, how they would have jurisdiction over U.S. officials.
Yes, certainly. Well, the International Criminal Court, in principle, has jurisdiction over the territory of a state that has ratified the Rome Statute and over the nationals or the citizens of a state that has ratified the Rome Statute. That's the basic rule, and there's an exception whereby the court can exercise jurisdiction essentially over anybody and anywhere in the world, providing there's a resolution of the Security Council authorizing the investigation and prosecution. And in this case, we do not have a resolution of the Security Council that applies. On the other hand, Palestine has been a state party to the Rome Statute since, I think, the 1st of April, 2015. And that means that any crime that is committed on the territory of Palestine is subject to the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court, regardless of the nationality of the perpetrator. And so we're talking about a crime that is committed, an alleged crime committed on the territory of Palestine, that is transferring population into an occupied territory. And the prosecutor's already indicated that this is a basis for part of her investigation, especially with regard to the territory of the West Bank, the occupied territory of the West Bank. And so then the only question is, who would be the possible perpetrators? Well, it's obvious that the only perpetrator is someone who is working really for the state of Israel, the occupying power, but they're doing it with the encouragement, the complicity, and the kind of conspiracy that involves the senior members of the U.S. administration. There's a provision in the Rome Statute, Article 25, that talks about a form of complicity or conspiracy to commit crimes within the Rome Statute, and it points out that they can be committed by a group of people who are part of a criminal plan to commit crimes within the jurisdiction of the court. And by my interpretation, that includes the crime of aggression and the annexation of territory by force, which is what is being proposed. So I think these are the relevant provisions that the prosecutor can work with. Now, it is well known, first of all, that the United States has been viciously attacking the court. I say the United States, I mean the Trump administration, with new measures, some of them adopted very recently, And I think that it's not unreasonable to understand that there's a connection afoot, because they understand that they are actually complicit in crimes that are being committed on the occupied territory and that are being threatened in the Palestinian occupied territory. So it may help us to understand why they have been so vehement in their attacks on the International Criminal Court. They have also advanced the theory, the United States has been doing this since the Rome Statute was adopted in 1998, that the Rome Statute cannot apply, that it's somehow contrary to international law for the Rome Statute to apply to nationals of a state that has not joined the court. Of course, that's in contradiction with the terms of the Rome Statute, and it's really not an argument that it can't be done under the Rome Statute. It's an argument that the Rome Statute would be in violation of international law were it to do this. Now, that's a view that is taken by the United States and by Israel, and I don't think there are any other countries in the world that have that interpretation of the Rome Statute. I think there are many states that have not joined the court who understand that if their nationals commit crimes on the territory of states that are members of the court, that they are subject to being prosecuted before the court. If you commit a crime on the territory of a state, you can be prosecuted by its courts. And if that state joins the International Criminal Court, you can also be prosecuted by the International Criminal Court. So there is a possibility of a debate about this before the International Criminal Court, and the prosecutor, like observers such as myself, can assess the likelihood of the arguments that are put forward by the United States and Israel, finding any resonance amongst the judges of the International Criminal Court. Of course, the United States might be before the International Court of Justice. I think that would be a very welcome thing. It would require, could come from a resolution of the Security Council. So perhaps if the United States is so confident in its position, it could ask that the Security Council adopt a resolution and invite the International Court of Justice to make a ruling on whether or not an International Criminal Court can prosecute someone who's a national of a state that hasn't joined the court. I think that would be a very good thing. I think they're probably terrified of doing it because they're probably pretty confident that they would lose.
Thank you, Professor Shebas, for that answer. I know it's a question that many who are following might have been wondering, and I do apologize that there have been some technical difficulties with allowing those who are following to be able to ask questions. So I hope that some of those questions might have been answered. I'm going to wrap up now and end by thanking all the speakers. Thank you, Professor Shebas, for explaining and outlining this important communication that has been submitted to the Office of the Prosecutor, and also to our two other speakers for providing context and highlighting the importance of what has been initiated today by this submission. Thank you very much for everyone joining, and I hope everyone has